for coaches, for leaders, coaches, experts, healers, service based providers. And we've been creating and writing these first aid offers for them so that they can simply place this first aid offer in front of their dream clients in a Google Doc or a PDF and have their dream clients say, yes, here's my credit card. I'm in. I want to work with you. And they're not doing any sales calls. They're not doing webinars. They're not doing launches. They're not doing, marketing funnels. And this can seem kind of crazy when you've been taught how to get clients, fill your programs, fill your one-on-ones with sort of sales calls, with certain types of marketing. And so it can be kind of hard to imagine, how can you just have a Google Doc, have a PDF explaining what you do and how you help someone? How can you just give that to someone and have the right people say, yes, I want to work with you. Here's my credit card. They get out their wallet and they say, I'm in. And really, it all comes down to the offer you're making. We call it a first date offer. Most people are proposing marriage to strangers, right? If you imagine going on a first date and let's say the date's going well, there's attraction, you're connecting with someone, the conversation's flowing. And even if all that's true, if you propose marriage on a first date or on a coffee date, that person is not going to say yes. They're going to think you're crazy, right? They're going to think, dang, this was going well. What's wrong with this person? And yet, most of us, coaches, experts, service providers, we are proposing marriage to strangers, people who don't already know us, people who haven't experienced working with us. We are proposing marriage to them. We're giving them an offer that is so all encompassing, so big. Generally, usually it's very general and vague too. Like if you say, hey, I'm going to help you make more money. Hey, I'm going to help you fix your car. Hey, I'm going to help you lose weight. Hey, I'm going to help you, with your personal finances. That's just way too general, way too vague. No one knows what that really means, right? That's a marriage offer. So that's why we call what we do with clients is create their first date offer, right? For people who are strangers to you, for prospects who haven't already worked with you, you want to be making a first date offer, right? So again, in dating, if I'm making an invitation to someone for a first date, I want to make that easy to say yes to, right? I'm not, on a first date, I'm not going to suggest that we, have a weekend away together to Santa Barbara. Even though that might be an awesome thing, it's not appropriate for a first date because we don't know each other. Well, are we staying in separate hotels? Am I a crazy person? Am I going to drink too much and say stupid things? What are we doing, right? So it's too much too soon. So the key to be able to have clients in this way and get clients in this way is really that first date offer. Especially if you're someone who isn't really a natural marketer or salesperson. Like if you're really a leader, an expert, someone who really likes to help people change their lives and transform their lives, then you don't want to have to do all this heavy lifting with marketing and sales because it's not really what you're meant to do on this earth, right? So when you have a first date offer, the nice thing about that for you as the expert or service provider is you're able to enroll clients through chat, through email, through DMs, through simple messages, instead of having these long sales calls, instead of kind of doing any of these high pressured sales takeaway techniques. Like you gotta make a decision right now on this phone, or your life is gonna suck type thing. You don't have to do any of that when you have a proper first date offer. The other nice thing is you actually have time to think before you respond to someone without pressure to perform live. So if you're not on a phone call, if you're not in front of someone face to face, and they have a question for you or they have something they're wondering about, you have time to think to respond, right? You're not responding in a live format right then and there. It also makes um, the delivery of your service is much easier on the front end because you're making a very small promise to help them with one or two things, right? You're not promising to help them with everything in their life or with their whole love life or their whole financial life or their whole business. When you make a big promise that's a marriage offer, you have to help them with a lot of things. That makes delivery very complicated. But when you make a great first date offer, you're only doing one or two very small things, and it's easy to deliver. Much smoother for you as the provider. And that really helps you get a lot of time back on your calendar, both in the sales process, but also in the delivery process. And then the other thing about a first date offer is because it's very small, it's a small promise. Again, you're not promising marriage. It it the first date offer sells your ongoing work for you, right? So clients are going to continue to work with you long term without you having sales calls, without you having any awkward conversations or any convincing needing to be done because guess what? You made a small promise in your first date. You got them one or two specific results that you promised them. And now they see that working with you actually helps them. It actually works. And they get to experience working with you. They're going to like you. So it only makes sense for them to continue working with you on your back end, higher end programs because now that can be a marriage offer, right? Now you can help them on bigger wins, bigger things. So in the first date offer, you're helping them get a quick win, and on the back end, you're helping them with the big wins. Now this is also great for your clients, for your prospects. Why is that? Because when you make a great first date offer, they get a real quick win. This gives them momentum, right? As a transformational leader, anytime someone's trying to make a change in their life, it's very difficult emotionally to make any kind of change. To do something new is emotionally difficult. So when you give someone that quick win, it gives them momentum to keep going down the path to the bigger wins. If you don't give them the quick win, they'll never get to the bigger wins. They're going to quit, beforehand, or it's just going to feel way too hard. So a quick win gives them momentum. It's also good for your prospects and clients to have a first date offer because they get to experience working with you in a less hugely committed way, right? They're going to get a quick win and they're going to find out if you can actually help them before they've committed to 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or made some big marriage commitment to you to work together. So making a proper first date offer is great for you in terms of it makes the sales process and your marketing very simple. It takes a lot of hours off your calendar for all the to-dos of marketing and sales because your first date offer is doing the heavy lifting. It's easy to say yes to, but it's also good for your prospects and clients because again, they don't have to make some big marriage type decision, right? They can experience working with you, getting a result, and seeing what it's truly like to get your help. Ashley and I discovered this um, over many years of trial and error of making offers. You might have heard this before, but we've had multiple businesses together. So Ashley's my wife, and we've had multiple businesses together. Our first business was our therapy practice, brick and mortar therapy practice in Southern California. At the same time, we started a coaching business, helping people with dating and relationships. And we made this mistake right out of the gate. Now, in the therapy practice, it's interesting because you do make a smaller offer, right? You're kind of doing per hour, per session, which I also don't recommend, right? That's also not a good model for you or the clients. But so we were making those types of offers. And then we were making offers in our dating and relationship coaching business. We made big marriage offers right out of the gate, which required us getting on phone calls and, having 60 to 90-minute phone calls, which felt terrible as the person doing them. Because Ashley and I we don't like high pressure sales. We don't like having to convince people of anything, right? We want to help people with our leadership, not with some kind of high pressure sales. So, we had this 3-month, $5,000 offer helping them to do so with some big thing, which was a marriage offer. It wasn't a first date offer. So it was hard to sell. It was hard to market. It required a lot of activity in terms of marketing and sales. So we learned the hard way that when you can make a really great first date offer and you can make it easy for someone to say yes to, you can skip all that stuff. And it would have been it would have been hard for me to believe this back then when I was selling that, 3-month big offer. It would have been very hard for me to believe there's some way where you don't have to be on the phone. You don't have to do a big webinar selling your services. You can simply give someone a Google Doc, a PDF, or in message, you can just give them your offer. And a lot of the right people are going to say, yes, I want that. But it's because of how you develop that first date offer that's possible. And then guess what? Your previous marriage offer, or if you have a big marriage offer right now, that can become part of your back end if it fits, right? So the thing I was promising in dating and relationships on the front end should have just probably been the back end, right? We discovered that. So if I can help you avoid so much of that marketing and sales activity that I know you don't like because you're not a salesperson, right? I want to do that, right? So the key is you want to have a first date offer that you can simply place in front of your ideal client in a Google Doc, in a PDF, in a notepad, whatever, some form of simple written format. And for them to look at that and say, yes, that's exactly what I want. It's exactly what I need. Here's my credit card. If you can't do that, then you don't have a first date offer, right? If you have to sell your offer on a long webinar, sales call, launch, challenge, where you have to do a lot of convincing, you don't have a first date offer. So that's the thing I would recommend you work on right away. And if you want Ashley or I to help you write that first date offer, reach out to us. We can have a quick back and forth to make sure that first date offer will give you more time, more money, more freedom, and the kind of business that you want.